The sunlight streamed through the tall windows of my apartment, painting golden lines across my silk blouse. I sipped my coffee, trying to enjoy the quiet morning, but my phone vibrated insistently against the marble counter. I almost didn't want to look. I knew the number, the one that used to make my stomach twist into knots.
It was a voicemail from my father.
I hesitated. My fingers trembled slightly as I tapped play. His voice, clipped and cold, filled the kitchen. "You are not family. Don't come back. We're moving on without you." For a moment, I felt the old familiar ache, the sting of rejection I thought I had left behind years ago. And yet, there was a flicker of something else, buried under the hurt. Pride. Because they had no idea.
Not really.
I set the phone down, listening to the hum of the city outside, the faint aroma of coffee lingering in the air. My apartment was neat, the way I liked it. Small touches of my life everywhere, reminders that I had built something on my own. Success. Independence. And I had done it all without their support, without their approval. I smiled, almost wryly. Maybe it was time they saw the truth. Maybe it was finally time to answer back, not with words, but with the life I had created. I remember the exact moment it all fell apart. I was 19, sitting at the kitchen table of our family home in Denver, my hands trembling as I tried to explain myself. My father's jaw was tight, his eyes cold and unyielding. My stepmother stood behind him, arms crossed, her expression a mixture of irritation and disbelief. "You don't understand, Hannah," my dad said, voice low but sharp. "You're making choices that don't fit into this family. Maybe you were never really one of us." I swallowed hard, feeling a lump form in my throat. My fingers dug into the edge of the table, nails scratching the polished wood, a futile anchor to keep me steady. All those years of trying to belong, of seeking approval, of walking on eggshells, and here I was, being dismissed like I had never mattered. My stepmother's words cut just as deep. "We're done pretending. You need to leave before you hurt yourself or us." I wanted to scream, to beg, to cry, but the tears didn't come. Instead, there was an odd, quiet clarity. I realized something important in that moment. I could either let this destroy me, or I could take it and build something they couldn't touch. Grandma's words echoed in my mind, the advice she had given me when I was little, sitting on her lap in her sunlit kitchen. "Hannah, life won't always hand you love or support. Sometimes you have to make your own." I clutched the small silver locket she had given me for my 18th birthday, a simple piece, engraved with her initials. It was heavy with meaning, a reminder that someone believed in me, that someone loved me enough to see my potential when the people who were supposed to didn't. By the end of that week, I had moved into a small apartment across town. I took a deep breath as I turned the key in the lock for the first time, feeling the weight of fear and excitement at the same time. I was alone, yes, but for the first time in years, I felt a spark of freedom, and maybe, just maybe, the first glimmer of a life that would be entirely my own. Starting over wasn't glamorous. My apartment is tiny, the walls bare, and the kitchen barely fit my essentials. But it was mine. Every morning, I woke to the sound of traffic and birds, brewed coffee that filled the room with warmth, and reminded myself that I was building something bigger than a house. I was building a life. I found work as a junior associate at a small marketing firm. My mentor, Mrs. Collins, a sharp, seasoned strategist in her 60s, immediately saw my potential. "You've got fire, Hannah," she said one day, handing me a folder of client briefs. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Her confidence was contagious. For the first time, I felt like someone believed in me as much as I believed in myself. The nights were long. I would often stay past midnight, perfecting presentations, learning new software, memorizing industry jargon, fighting the nagging doubt that whispered I wasn't good enough. I failed a lot. Clients rejected my proposals, campaigns flopped, and there were moments I thought about giving up. But every time, I'd look at the locket around my neck, feel Grandma's words echo in my mind, and push forward. Slowly, victories came. My first big client, a local boutique, gave me a chance, trusting me to launch their campaign. The results exceeded expectations. Then another client, and another. Each win, no matter how small, was a quiet rebellion against the voice of my past telling me I couldn't succeed without them. I learned to hide my growth from my family. Social media updates were vague. A selfie at a cafe, a neutral post about life lessons. They didn't need to know that I was signing contracts, closing deals, and gradually building my own company. They didn't get to see that the girl they dismissed had grown into a woman who could thrive on her own terms. By my 25th birthday, I had launched my own boutique marketing agency. The office was modest but elegant, crisp white walls, framed motivational quotes, and a single large window letting in the morning light. It wasn't just a space, it was a symbol. Every client, every project, every sleepless night had led to this moment. Yet even in my success, there was a quiet longing. I wondered what it would feel like to face the people who had once told me I didn't belong. To show them, without a word, how wrong they had been. That thought, buried deep beneath the satisfaction of my victories, was growing, waiting for the right moment to surface. I didn't plan for it to be dramatic, but somehow it always is. My father and stepmother called me one Tuesday afternoon, claiming they wanted to talk about my future, a laughable suggestion after years of being told I wasn't family. I agreed to meet, not in my office, not in the city I had made mine, but at a neutral location, a boutique cafe downtown. I arrived first, dressed in a tailored navy blazer and crisp white blouse, the kind of outfit that radiates quiet authority. My hair was pulled back, makeup subtle but polished. The cafe smelled of roasted coffee and fresh pastries, sunlight spilling across the polished wooden floors. I ordered a latte, sipped it slowly, and watched them arrive. They didn't recognize me at first. My father's jaw tightened, his stepmother's eyes darted, scanning the space as if they were searching for the girl they had dismissed. And perhaps they were, but the girl they remembered wasn't here. I let a small, polite smile play on my lips as they slid into the booth across from me. "Hannah," my father said, voice uncertain. We wanted to see how you've been." I nodded, taking another sip of my latte. The pause stretched, long enough for me to savor their discomfort. Then I began, slowly, deliberately. "I've been busy," I said softly. "Busy building something they told me I couldn't. I started my own marketing agency 5 years ago. We now manage campaigns for Fortune 500 companies, and last quarter alone, our revenue exceeded $3 million. I watched their faces. Disbelief. Then shame. Then the quick, reflexive attempt to hide it. My stepmother's hand twitched, as if she wanted to reach across the table, but couldn't. My father's lips pressed into a thin line. I continued, letting the words flow, each one measured. "I've expanded into consulting, mentoring young women entering the industry. I've built a team of talented professionals who respect me, who trust me. And I did all of this without anyone's approval or help." They stared, wide-eyed, as the reality sank in. The little girl they had scorned, the girl they said wasn't part of the family, had grown into a woman they couldn't ignore. Then I pulled out my tablet, showing them a portfolio of my work, high-profile clients, award-winning campaigns, media coverage. "This is my life now," I said, letting my voice carry warmth and firmness in equal measure. "Everything I've built, I built on my own terms." My father's throat worked. He opened his mouth, but no words came. My stepmother's eyes shimmered with a mixture of guilt and astonishment. I let the moment linger. I didn't need to say more. The truth had spoken for itself. And in that silence, I realized something. For the first time, I held the power. Not out of revenge, not out of spite, but out of truth. They could no longer define me. I had redefined myself. I leaned back in my chair, watching them process the truth. Their eyes were wide, mouths slightly open, as if the reality of my independence had knocked the air out of them. For a moment, I almost felt pity, but pity wasn't what this was about. This was about boundaries, about reclaiming the power that had been denied to me for years. "I want to be clear," I said, my voice calm but unwavering. "If you want to be part of my life moving forward, it will be on my terms. Not yours. Not the ones that kept me small." My father swallowed hard, shifting in his seat. "Hannah, we..." No, I interrupted gently but firmly. Let me explain. I laid out the conditions, each one tied to growth, healing, and accountability. You will respect my life, my choices, and my space. That includes no criticism of the decisions I've made or the people I work with. You will not expect financial support, nor will you try to control how I spend my time. I glanced at my stepmother, who looked stricken but attentive. If you want a relationship with me, I continued, you need to confront your own behaviors, the patterns that hurt me. No more dismissive comments, no more favoritism, no more assumptions that I need saving. You will pursue your own goals, your own passions, instead of trying to dictate mine. I felt the weight of their gaze, a mixture of shame and surprise. It was almost as if they had forgotten what accountability felt like. I let the silence stretch, giving them room to absorb it. And one more thing, I added, softening my tone but keeping it firm. Compassion doesn't mean weakness. I care about you both, and I want us to move forward. But that only works if you truly respect boundaries and grow into the people you're capable of being. I watched them nod slowly, realizing that they had no choice but to accept, not because I demanded it, but because the truth of my life made it undeniable. The power had shifted, not through anger or revenge, but through clarity and self-respect. For the first time in years, I felt the full weight of my own agency. I wasn't just a daughter they had once cast aside. I was a woman who had rewritten the story, defined her own worth, and offered a chance at reconciliation, but only under terms that honored my journey and my growth. And as I left the cafe later that afternoon, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because they had changed completely, but because I had. I had reclaimed my power, and that was mine to keep forever. Weeks passed after that meeting. Slowly, subtly, I began to notice changes. My father called once, hesitated, then asked for advice on a project he was starting. My stepmother signed up for a creative workshop she had always dismissed, finally pursuing a hobby she loved. They weren't perfect, they wouldn't be overnight, but they were trying, and that was enough. I often found myself sitting by my office window, the city sprawling below, sunlight bouncing off the glass of nearby buildings. I held my grandmother's silver locket in my hand, tracing its engravings and remembering the words that had guided me. Sometimes you have to make your own life. That advice had been the spark that ignited my independence, the quiet reminder that love and support can exist even if it doesn't come from the people you expect. I reflected on the journey, the rejection, the heartbreak, the nights I doubted myself. Each step, every challenge, had been a brushstroke, painting the woman I had become. Strong, independent, and unapologetically myself. I realized that the relationships I now cherished were those built on mutual respect, honesty, and effort, not obligation or expectation. And in that realization, I found a serenity I had never known. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. I had taken the pain they tried to inflict and turned it into fuel. I had rewritten the narrative from not family to entirely capable of standing on my own, and in doing so, I had opened the door for healing on my terms. I clasped the locket around my neck once more and whispered to myself, a small, steady smile on my lips. I am enough. I am whole. And no one gets to define me but me. The sunlight shifted, falling warmly across my desk. The city hummed below, alive with possibility. And so was I, strong, independent, graceful. A woman who had taken a voicemail meant to hurt her and transformed it into a story of triumph, empowerment, and unshakable self-respect.